This is the Signal Cafe, where we connect with the people, info, and resources that you need to be successful in Agile, product, and lean startup thinking. And today we're speaking with Henry, Agile coach, startup coach, founder, and head of product at Scribe. Also, the author of the upcoming book, Why Your Startup is Failing. And the big letters are actually, your startup is failing. Henry, how do you pronounce your last name? How do you pronounce your name?
Latham, so Henry Latham.
Latham.
Yeah,
Awesome.
some people find it a little tricky. Latham and Latham.
I should have asked that before we started rolling.
No, it's all good. No worries. I have it a lot.
So tell the listeners a little bit about you. What do you do for work? What do you do for fun? What's your background?
Yeah, sure. So I really got into product like 7 years ago when I was at university in the UK. So I I definitely stumbled into it. There was no plan. But essentially I was studying in Spain in 2012, 13. And whilst there, I sort of started learning Portuguese for self-teaching. And I ended up going to Brazil for 3 months and sort of traveling by myself, like trying to learn the language. And actually, whilst there, because particularly traveling alone and doing a sort of 3-day boat trip down the Amazon by myself, like you have a lot of time to think, too much time to think. So I was there sort of on this boat, not really able to talk to anyone, and started coming up with the concept for my first business called BackTracker, which is essentially a travel app for plotting your journey as you go, like pinning suggestions from your own suggestions, other people's, your friends. You could stay in touch with friends, like see their journeys. So say if you Jack went traveling last year to Brazil, I'm going this year. I can sort of use your trip for inspiration.
Sure.
So I had this exciting idea. Went back to university. With studying politics and Spanish, so not very tech friendly. I had no idea what to do. Sort of gradually, learning. Put a team together of 5 people, including 2 developers, and so I was like trying to do my finals that year. Did you call it finals? Final year of university. Right, so quite like a big thing, but obviously I had this business idea, and I was like, this is way cooler. This is way cooler than learning about like 15th century Spanish literature. So so I started, as I said, got 2 developers involved, and then we realized, well, we need some sort of like design, and like how do we do this? Like what is what is this thing going to be, and how does it work? So I really then had to obviously take that role and say like, shit, we need we need design, we need product, right? So started self-teaching during my final year, and we launched just after finals. Well, I think it was a few days just after, yeah. So it's trying to balance like doing these quite important exams with learning to design, learning to manage product, and actually launching product. So we launched end of that summer and got like an initial boost. So we got an app store feature, and we're like, wow, this is awesome, like 10,000 downloads in a week. But very quickly realized that we had no idea really like how product worked, and I had not put the work in. And essentially, we'd followed a complete waterfall approach where me, ego and all of this excitement was blinding me really to how, was this a good idea? Were we solving a real problem? Was this a solution? Was a solution we can make money from? So this sort of first year of that business was really just chaos and like waterfall and just huge amount of learning that, ego can really kill your business. And also not thinking and not being strategic can really kill your business. So then the second year of that, luckily we got into an accelerator program in London. So this is when I was living back in London after university. And we got into this accelerator program, and suddenly we're like, oh my God, this is like actually how startups should work. Because we had this network of mentors and other startups, right? So, every week I'd be speaking with like 2 pretty senior heads of product, like some management consultants, business development, all of this stuff, like guys that, knew their stuff. And very quickly we started like implementing like agile practices, agile methodologies, like a sprint, for example.
Sure.
we started following the lean startup methodology as a team. And we started to see some improvements, but actually one of the huge learnings for me, and one thing I'll go into later about what I observe now really with Agile, is that we were doing all of the things like the sort of visible, tangible stuff, right? Measuring story points, like estimating, giving ourselves a pat on the back each week if we got done what we defined at the beginning of the week. But my big learning was that we weren't, with a new venture, you have to make these big leaps and answer very big strategic questions. As I said, like, is there demand for this product? Firstly, what problem are we solving specifically with the solution? How can we obviously build and iterate that solution to get to a point where people use it and pay for the product? So yeah, end of second one, we again we were sort of starting to make a bit of progress, but ran out of money because at that point we'd had 2 years of I won't say the F word, but a lot of F ups, let's say, like just a lot of mistakes that were obviously dragging us, slower, and making little progress. And we closed that company sort of 2 years after. And as I said, I sort of had this moment where it's like identity crisis, first of all, because something your purpose is gone. The thing you've got up for every day, the thing you put money in, the thing you've got investment around, and you've boasted to family and friends like, this is the next big thing, etc. Suddenly that is ripped away from you in a way. So I had that sort of sense of loss and like mild depression in terms of what can I do next? Like, what is what I have no value because this thing fell. And then obviously like a day after that you start actually reflecting and realizing there's a huge amount of learning there. But one of the big learnings I got out of it is like, well, first year of that business, we made a lot of avoidable mistakes, essentially following waterfall. Like, so I said, well, that was obviously stupid looking back on it, with the learning. But the second year was more interesting because again, we had everything on our side. I had some investment, we had really good network around us. But so my learning was like, well, what is the thing that made us fail or could make us succeed? And for me, it struck me really that like, yes, Agile theory and lean startup theory makes a huge amount of sense, right? In terms of, okay, we don't know what we're doing. Like a startup is inherently uncertain, and therefore we need a strategic approach to like answering, as I said, what problem are we solving? What solution can we build? Can we make money from that solution? But it seemed that it wasn't working in practice because on one side you had that theory, but on the other, we had this sort of startup culture that celebrated like, work six, seven days a week, like 12 hours a day, like push, get more stuff done. And it seemed to me, it's like, well, we did all that stuff and it didn't really help us because we, again, on reflection or in hindsight, I realized, we did not answer these big strategic assumptions. We jumped to this conclusion, like, let's build this awesome like travel thing. You can put pins down, blah, blah, blah. But as I said, we didn't research it. We didn't go about it in the right way. And we didn't think high level enough.
Sure.
So really since then, the last 6 years, I have, always had in mind starting a second business. And for me, it's always really been, I've been working as a freelancer, like now senior designer, senior sort of product leader. And my journey has always been sort of asking this question, like what makes companies fail? What makes them succeed? How can I sort of cultivate those traits and those characteristics to sort of help me succeed? So yeah, that's got me to where I am now, which is, I've just published a book, as you said. Well, sorry, not publisher.
So when does it come out?
End of June it will be out.
Awesome.
For listeners, I'll leave a link actually at the end for you to pass on to listeners. You can get the first chapter for free and join the mailing list so you get notified about the launch. Yeah, so I wrote that book really as a sort of initially just, what is my philosophy on it? What have I learned over 6 years? And how can I share that with other people? And because that has really come from, as I said, this learning working in lots of different companies, seeing both things that have seemed to be common factors in failure and common factors of success. And now what I'm doing is applying sort of that philosophy into Scribe, where I'm head of product, where we it's a 4-person team, but we like that. We want it to be small. We don't want to take on investment. We want to grow it to simply a profitable business that solves a problem for a specific use case, i.e. experienced journalists, people that want to explore their thoughts, get their thoughts down. Because a lot of my learning has been that, things like taking on investment comes with it changes the type of business you're going to be building, which again is a question people ask themselves.
Sure. Yeah, it's a lot of outside influence. And sometimes it's good in the form of mentors and in the form of talking to people with a ton of experience who are asking the right questions and having you ask and answer the right questions. And sometimes it's, I'm sure, distracting.
Yeah, exactly. It depends where you're at in life and like what type of business you want to build. They said like we had a huge amount of value going into an accelerator program, which essentially they take some percentage of the company. But it depends, what type of company do you want to build? And for me, it's something that I can manage, that is manageable, where people face to face, where I can also balance my time effectively and, do things, hobbies. Like I like meditating mid-afternoon, I like going for a walk with my dog, this type of stuff, which becomes very difficult, if you're pursuing growth and fame and fortune, all of these things.
80-hour weeks.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, more common in the US, I imagine, as well. I imagine the problem is more.
It's fairly common.
Very celebrated.
Sometimes. And I think it also kind of speaks to the hero myth that I've heard you talk about on your YouTube channel about the overnight success, right? The overnight entrepreneur where you put in 80-hour weeks for 6 months and you get $1 billion valuation or whatever the hero myth might be. It's not simple. So I want to touch on patience and time and Tolstoy eventually, or in just a few minutes. But getting back to Agile, so you got into the accelerator and you were working with mentors and you started running sprints and you started doing Agile and learning about lean startup thinking and Agile thinking. And it was good, but it didn't work perfectly, right? Or it missed some things. And on other teams that you've worked with, you noted that, everybody's doing Agile, right? Agile is a huge buzzword. Lean startup is everywhere. Agile is everywhere. And it works some places and it doesn't work in others. And I've read a bunch of your blogs and watched your YouTube videos on anti-Agile or Agile, why it doesn't work. What are talk a little bit more in detail about Agile methodologies. What do you think it is in a nutshell, and why do a lot of teams miss the mark when trying to do Agile or be Agile rather?
You've been listening to the Signal Cafe, and this was part 1 of our interview with Henry Latham. In the next episode, we'll get more into the details of why Agile theory quite often does not translate well in practice. If you're enjoying the show, please leave us a review on iTunes and check out our detailed show notes at signal.cafe/4.